Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with a rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 78. This is the final episode in the 13-episode podcast-long Batman month here inside The Pull Bag, celebrating 75 years of Batman. I am, of course, your host, Steve G. Mike. Joining me is Steve Megatron. Hello.
Hello.
And also joining us is Jeremy Fine. Hello.
It was sure nice for Joker to send me those open-faced sandwiches.
Those sound like they're a little too fleshy.
Wow.
Well, they were made of Harley.
Oh. Okay, we're starting this off on a good note. All right, so we are here to talk about the quote-unquote epic Death of the Family storyline by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Ran from Batman issue 13 to 17 in the New 52 storyline. It also had crossovers with Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood. I don't know if it crossed over with Teen Titans or I don't remember.
It slightly did that and Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin, right. But we are just specifically talking about what happened in the issues from 13 to 17. Now, I did get the hardcover this past Christmas. The hardcover does some, and I'm sure the trade will do this too, but the hardcover and trade will probably do something that I think Steve and I can agree would be a much better way of doing, placing the backup stories in, because when I read Batman and I get to the backup story, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's the end of that issue. It's not that I have anything against the backup stories, but the way they're done in the single issues, it feels like a disconnect. And when I read, because I actually reread through the Death of the Family hardcover before we did this episode, and the backup stories with Joker and Penguin and Joker, Penguin, and Two-Face, they felt more fluid with the issues as one whole solid thing. What else? Jeremy, what were your initial opinions of Death of the Family?
Between this and Dark Knight Returns, I thought that Batman literature couldn't get any better. And I have to admit, I didn't know where this was going to go. This is probably the sickest we've seen Joker. I don't know how he can top himself. For me, he always comes off as this showman. Like, how is he going to top his next performance?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he's definitely has to have followers and groupies and imitators. I thought finally we were going to get who he really was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I'm the most disappointed is that, once again, it's another kick in the teeth.
Yeah, kind of it is. Now, I think I already said this, but I could be wrong. Steve and I have already covered this review style before the pull bag even started. Actually, it was because of us covering 13 through 17 of Batman that the pull bag even became a podcast on the Geekcast Radio Network. So we're just going to do this discussion style. I might go through the trade and pick out certain images and stuff like that, but we're not going to be doing what we've done so far in the Batman month, where we go through almost every page of the trade and review it, because we've already done that. Steve, you're the Joker fanboy here. What was your reaction when you first heard about the news about this, and your reaction to the overall story in general?
Well, like I said before in Geekcast Radio, I originally got this. I had started going back into comics around this time. It was actually before this that I kind of jumped back in, because I was like, you know what? I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're doing in the New 52. So I went back in probably around issue 10 of Batman. So I was already collecting by that point. But then we were also doing our Batman month. And so what I did is I contacted DC Comics. And that happened to be one of the comics that they sent me. And I was quite pleased when I read it. It with the initial first issue, it was leading up towards something that could be epic. And as the story progressed, there was a lot of dialogue, and there was a lot of stuff going back and forth between all the different, Catwoman, Batgirl, Nightwing, Batman and Robin, Teen Titans, because Joker was affecting the entire Bat family. So it's neither here nor there on that end, because it was showing what Joker was doing in the interim of antagonizing Batman. But as the story progressed, it was leading up towards this big event, and then at the very end, it fizzled out.
Yeah, it kind of did. For me, and I've said this many times on this podcast and on other GCRN podcasts that we do. I've known about comics. I respect comics, but I didn't grow up reading them. I read a Spider-Man comic every now and then in the 90s simply because of the animated series at the time. And I do remember when I was 8 or 9, so somewhere around 88 or 89, my mom got me some really big, thick trade paperback of a Batman story, but I have no idea what it was. But I mean, it had to have been at least 200, maybe 300 and something pages. I have no idea what it was, though. No clue. I cannot remember that at all. I just remember her getting it for me from somewhere. So when, over the last 6 years, Steve and I have become really good friends and everything else, and starting the network and all this and all that history. So I know Steve, and I know what somewhat unhealthy obsession he has with the Joker. And when I read his written review on GeekCastRadio.com, I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And I was originally only going to get 13 through 17. And then in the last 2 years, my comic reading has exploded. I read almost not every single comic from every single company, but I've found stuff here and there, that franchises that I like or characters that I like, and I go about it that way. With Death of the Family, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and I gave it a shot, and I didn't I thought at the end of 13, Joker did something a little bit more brutal to Harley than what he actually did, and I didn't catch what he actually did until I went back and looked at it again today before we recorded this, because I thought he cut her or he did something to her to make it go blood red, and then I realized, oh wait, he just put the hood on her head. Oh boy. All right, we are going to take one quick break, and we're going to come back with the rest of the discussion after the Joker tells us about this.
What's the matter, Batman? No witty comeback, no threat? Then I'll provide the narration. I'll begin with how I peeled back the layers of the boy's mind. Though he bravely tried to fight it at first. You would have been proud to see him so strong. But all too soon, the serums and the shocks took their toll, and the dear lad began to share such secrets with me, secrets that are mine alone to know.
Guess who's back?
For 1 year, Gotham City has been free. Since the Joker limped off the streets of Gotham, mutilated and scarred after a madman carved the pale white skin right off his face. For 1 year, Batman and his allies have waited, watchful and uneasy, wondering when he would return. The Joker is back, and he has transformed into something more deadly and insidious than ever before. For once, the Dark Knight doesn't seem to be his target. Instead, the Joker turns his vile infamy towards Commissioner Gordon, Alfred, Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Red Robin, the only family Bruce Wayne has left. The Clown Prince of Crime will unleash his most unpredictable, vicious, and psychotic assault on everyone Batman holds dear. Can Batman stop his arch-rival's most deranged assault ever? Or will the revelation and the deadly secret cost him everything he's built? That is the copy from the slipcase cover for the hardcover of this book for the trade. The hardcover trade is something to behold, people, because the dust jacket on it is the Joker's face that got ripped off. And then underneath it on the actual book is what is underneath his face being ripped off, and on the back is just Batman's face. But I had to get this because I wanted to know. I thought I saw Scott Snyder tweet about something that he wanted to be able to describe more in detail what the Joker was doing once the trade came out, so people would kind of get the message a little bit more. And I was really excited to see that and to see if I was going to like this story more. I like the beginning of it. I think that's really cool. The middle, what I loved about the storyline is some of the crossovers, like when he appears in Batgirl and when he appears in Nightwing and what he does to them. Because it's just sick and twisted and all kinds of wrong on both occasions. And what is interesting to me is how they did the build-up for this, because, how they did the build-up for the finale, because the build-up for the finale is interesting. You have to read all of the other issue 16s before you. This is just how I see it. You have to read all, like, Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood and the Outlaws 16 before you read Batman 16, and then on the finale you read the finale, and then you read the other 17s after you read Batman 17. So that was interesting to me how they set that up, with the Joker collecting the entire Bat family and then having the finale in 17. The story overall, I like it. I understand what Snyder was going for, that Joker feels that all these sidekicks that Batman has are basically destroying what the Joker knew the great Batman to be. But I was more than creeped out half the time reading this story. The whole My King thing, oh God, that didn't just creep me out, that almost pissed me off. That was a little too strange for my tastes. That was a little too strange for my taste of the Joker. Steve, thoughts?
I was fine with the Joker being a creep. It just kind of worked. The only thing I have to say about it is the fact that the Joker just kind of, I don't know. I liked the portrayal. I get why they went with the no face thing. It was a continuation of Detective Comics #1.
Mm-hmm.
Where he had the puppet master cut his face off so he could get out of Arkham.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he's still, he goes back to the GCPD to collect it and put it back on when it's all rotted, and his face should still be kind of rotted, instead of what you see, which is the bloody underneath, which is supposed to be a while later. Like, it's supposed to be a year after he had his face cut off.
Mm-hmm.
So the skin shouldn't really be. I mean, I know it was barely there anyway, but and it's washed up and become Joker's daughter's face now. But I don't know. I kind of wish they would have went a different route, but I understand they're trying to break the mold of
Hmm.
what they did with the Joker here.
What about you, Jeremy? What are your overall thoughts on the story overall here, as
Well,
far as what the Joker was doing, as far as all that good stuff?
well, first of all, with the whole thing with the face being cut off, I thought that it was supposed to be symbolic, that he's wearing a mask and he's masking himself, and we're finally going to see his true form. That was the whole point. And then, of course, he's just wearing it like a costume. And I have to admit that there were times that were really screwed up where he's, taking it and he's reversing it, where he's, talking through his teeth, where it's coming out through the eye holes. It's just like a costume to him, and then he keeps trying to. I don't know if he's trying to staple it on or using, belt buckles or Velcro or whatever. But I thought once again there'd be some sort of symbolism on the whole issue of masking, because and I'll trail off to Batman '89 where he said to Batman, "I've taken off my makeup. Why don't you take off yours?" And I thought that's how he was going to take off his mask.
Mm.
But unfortunately, and then of course, when it came to this story, I ended up just downloading the digital hardcover only because I found out that in September there's going to be this huge. Not only will be the book, but also the Joker face mask, where this seems to be the most cosplayed costume next to Dark Knight Returns, where the Batarang is in his eye. So I do have to admit there were two I like with Harley Quinn, where she's starting to toughen up and become her own person now. But I also love the thing with Catwoman because there is a question of who really loves Batman the most and why. And she just finds him to be a boy toy. And now I'm thinking to myself, well, is Joker admitting that he's in love with Batman? And I'm thinking, because why is he trying to take away all that he holds dear? Why is he trying to take away his so-called family? So it's either a bromance or Joker does in fact like lollipops, so to speak. It's hard to say, but I could also go back to the Dark Knight where Joker goes, "You complete me." So I'm not quite sure what the whole cycle, it
I
was.
think the psychology of it is that he wants the Batman that he knew, the Batman without sidekicks, the Batman without a support system, the Batman who was dark, brooding, and just consistently vengeful against crime. The Joker in this seems to see the entire Bat family, even Alfred, as a crutch for Batman. Um, that's the way I got it. My biggest complaint about the story is they don't act. I get the metaphor. He's supposed to be killing the entire family and basically making them not talk to each other after this event. But that doesn't happen. They still talk to each other after the damn event happened. The whole thing with me is if you're going to title your story "A Death in the Family" or "Death of the Family," somebody's got to friggin' die. Um, and of course, and actually, this story was the story that made me loathe Damian Wayne. Issue 15, I every time he opened his mouth, like, basically mouthing off to him and the rivalry between him and Tim Drake, or him and the rivalry between him and Jason Todd, just like, oh God, kid, shut up. And the fact that, oh hey, Bruce and Talia had a kid. He's technically Ra's al Ghul's grandson, so he could either, you know, go Batman's route or go evil and go Ra's route. It's like, oh God, why leave that up to chance? Just kill him and leave him dead. Ugh. Which they did. Of course, they're probably not going to leave him dead, sadly, considering they have that new animated film out with him. So I got the message from the story, but this just doesn't seem like a Joker tale that would. I don't know. It just doesn't. Maybe it's because I didn't read that first part of Detective at the time, But this just doesn't seem like a fit, especially the ending. The ending confused the crap out of me. I get it that the Ha is the elemental symbol of what Bruce found in the toxin or whatever else, but like, what else is that supposed to signify? Is that supposed to signify that obviously the Joker is going to come back at some point? Because let's face it, I mean, Batman without the Joker is like Superman without kryptonite. But my biggest problem was the end. The other thing that confused me about the end is, what is the deal of the last page? And I asked you this when we were reviewing it, Steve. What is the deal with the last page and the fly on the computer screen? I just don't get that.
The fly was just showing the decay, because if you look, it's constantly floating around Joker's face throughout the issues.
Okay.
And then the fact that the Ha is like the symbolic chemical, like periodic table symbol for the chemicals that Joker used and kind of put into all their DNA. So when it reads out, it goes ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
But I think the fly was just a symbolic thing that, it's got some of the DNA type stuff, but it's also the fact that his face is more or less ruined, and he ruined himself to basically kind of show that he needed to ruin the Bat family in order to make Batman better. Because he had so many crutches. So it's showing that.
Yeah. Overall, I'm glad that this was my introduction to the series, but I still think that Court of Owls was much better. I don't know like if Snyder ever brings him back, I don't know what he could do. And honestly, this was the one time I get it, listeners and everybody else, I get it, Batman doesn't kill. But this is the one time I was really hoping he would have killed the Joker.
There have been several times that we hope that Batman's going to kill the Joker, and this is something that I've been wanting to bring up for the longest time, is that Batman keeps telling himself that as long as I let Joker live, I can keep my sanity. And everybody seems to agree with Batman that Batman's got to bring Joker in by the book. But over the years, whatever the media is, whether it's comics or TV or movies, Joker has transitioned from a prankster to a homicidal maniac to, I'll say it, a terrorist. And I feel that if you put him next to a Middle Eastern terrorist and one of our boys shoots him down, he's not going to come home and say, well, I shot him, now what's going to stop me from shooting? No, I don't think it's going to go that way. I mean, once again, there's so many ways I can trail off and debate other arguments where Batman says, well, if I kill Joker, what's to stop me from killing Penguin or Two-Face? But Penguin, we know what his deal is. And Two-Face, well, he's got to flip that coin before he does something drastic. And Riddler, we can go on and on and on. Joker, we know nothing about. So if we had to put him down, and realistically, if we put him in a real-life Arkham Asylum, he either would be so set up on medication he wouldn't know what day of the week it is, or he'd probably be lobotomized. Here, it's like he's able to just walk in, threaten a psychiatrist, threaten a judge or whatever, and walk out. You know what? No, I'm not, unless he has a fan base, but at this point, I'll say it right now, I was going to save it for the end, it's not funny anymore.
I really think for me and my liking of the character of the Joker, I've liked some of the other animated interpretations of him, like John DiMaggio in Under the Red Hood. That was interesting. I have yet to hear Troy Baker as the Joker, but it's always going to boil down to Hamill. It
Mark,
really, really is, and it's just one of those things where since he's said that he's retired from the he has said, I've heard him say this, the only thing he'll come out of retirement for is if they ever do an animated version of The Killing Joke. And I just I couldn't even hear his voice in my head when reading this story. I don't know what kind of Joker Scott Snyder was trying to set up here.
I think I do. I think I guess you haven't seen Dark Knight Returns, the animated movie yet, but
I've seen part one, not part two.
okay, well, Emerson, who voiced Joker,
Mm-hmm.
he got it dead on. He did, because here's the thing, with John DiMaggio, it almost sounds like from Fanucci's Pizza from Futurama. It's like bats. Throw a batarang at me. Come on. But Emerson seems to have this tone, like he doesn't yell or scream. He just like keeps it at one level, and it almost sounds like we're getting to the end, or like he's almost trying to copy and emulate Batman. And I think that's what he's trying to do because I, well, I mean, I thought at one point he was going to try to follow Batman or emulate Batman. But as for voices go, I don't know if Hamill, and I love him to death, I don't know if Hamill would want to come out of retirement to do this Joker. This seems like
not this one. Killing Joke.
Oh, Killing Joke, yeah. But I'm saying if you could some way bring Hamill out, but maybe if Heath Ledger was still alive, he could voice this one. But I don't know where you're going to be able to go or who's going to be able to pull this one off.
Yeah, I don't know either. And the ending to this, even reading the other issues to see how it has affected the other characters, it just is so sadly anticlimactic. It really, really is. I was really, when I went back and read the hardcover, I was okay. I'm excited. Okay, here's issue 15 where I know Damien's gonna talk out his ass as usual, so I don't care about that. But then we went into issue 16 and 17, and I was excited, and then we get to the page where Batman has Joker on the little cliff in the cave or whatever, wherever the hell it is, and basically lets him fall, but nothing really, like, he doesn't actually kill the guy. And that was the other thing that kind of, this whole thing with Bruce and not telling the family whether Joker got into the cave in that initial story, or whether he's been there before, or whether he knows the secret. Because it felt to me Snyder was going back to his Court of Owls story in the beginning where Bruce didn't believe in the Court of Owls whatsoever at all. And the whole keeping the secret from the family, whether Joker got in or not, it's like they said it, they have a right to know, and they do. And the fact that he has all of I know he's always going to have all of their DNA on file, but if Joker was able to hack any of that, well, boom, there you go. I mean, that's just like in, Forever Evil. If people can find out who Nightwing is, well, of course they're going to know who Batman is. Steve, any other thoughts for Death of the... I really don't know how much further we can take this, guys, unless we start going page by page, because it just... I just not up on this story as I was initially.
While I do enjoy the story, and while it had sparked my interest back into DC Comics and helped spark other people to coming to DC Comics for the fact that the Joker returned.
Mm-hmm.
And while I applaud them for not going back to the same can of tricks and bringing the Joker back so soon,
mm-hmm.
The adding the Man-Bat as a replacement or having Year One
Mm-hmm.
and the death of Damien also quickly packed right afterward don't entice me, as well as the fact that I understand, you're never supposed to know if the Joker survived or not, But I guess I wish that something else had happened during this. Like, if they were going to kill Damien, maybe had this as the way out or something, or have him kill Red Hood or kill, somebody. Do something where he forces Bruce's hand to have to pick between his children, essentially. That would have been, it would have been the douchebaggy-ish move to do, but it would have more or less shown what shown something that Joker forced his hand.
Or he could have, Joker could have done the one thing that would have made them all unite together and kill Alfred. If he killed Alfred, that would really get the Bat family all on the same page.
Well, see, they hinted at killing Alfred or killing Gordon or killing Catwoman, and then they kill Damien. I mean, granted, and I'm not going to go into detail, but because this wasn't a true split from the pre-New 52, there's a lot of things that continuity-wise were screwed up that didn't quite mesh with this universe or this Joker.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of mess with the DC comics, and I think that this was the last time that at least something made somewhat of sense. Because after that, they've gone into the death of Damien, or Year Zero, or the Future's End, or the Forever Evil, or all these different little crazy crosses between other lines, and it's gotten so convoluted and hard to follow since that time that I think Death of the Family, like after issue 17, I think it took a nosedive.
Yeah,
because you have the Court of Owls and the City of Owls, and then you have a one issue break between City and Death of the Family. That it's I don't think it's gotten better since then. I think it's progressively gotten worse since that last issue fizzled out.
We will cover Future's End in June, at least the first 4 issue. I'm only interested in that to see what origin they give Terry McGinnis in bringing Batman Beyond into the New 52. I'm not totally thrilled with that at all. I think they just need to leave him in the animated universe and not worry about it. But I'm slightly interested. I'll say this, when we're at the beginning of Batman month here, when we've reviewed the first 4 issues of Batman Eternal, Snyder is doing so much of a better job of enticing me to read his stuff in that than he is here. Because after, like you said, Steve, after Death of the Family, the Clayface story was interesting and cool in issues 19 and 20. And then 0 Year started, and there are exactly three issues of 0 Year that I absolutely love: 21, 24, and 30. It just isn't. It's not the Batman that I want is what Kyle is doing over in Bat Beyond. That's honestly I know it's not Bruce in the suit, but it's, Bruce is still around. It's the animated universe stuff. I'm just so down on the other than Eternal. Eternal I really do love. I've read the first we've covered the first 4 issues. And I'm really digging that, but the current mainline Batman, something's got to happen. Something big that isn't a damn origin story. Jeremy, any other thoughts you want to bring up?
Well, here's the thing, because when it comes to Batman comics, I'm simple. I care about character development, and I have to say that it's been a real long time since I really wanted to pick up a Batman comic. I do think that if it weren't for me watching reruns of Batman 66, I wouldn't care about Batman, period. And I feel that people over the years watched that and tried to take stories from there and try to make them stronger and tighter, which they've had. But the problem is that when you keep depending on Joker, is he the big bad? And then, well, then if you try to bring in Clayface or Ventriloquist or anyone else, nobody's going to care. And I think that's a mistake. But I will say this, if this is finally, the grand finale, and as I said, since I had downloaded the digital comic, I do kind of like the epilogue where Batman kind of considers Joker as Moby Dick, the great white whale. But out of all the solid graphic novels of Batman in this order, it's Dark Knight Returns, Killing Joke, and definitely this one. But from what I've heard from you guys, I don't know what other. I do want to read Court of Owls. Court of Owls, you've been talking about a lot, so I definitely want to pick that one up. But after that, I don't know where else I want to go because it does get a little clustered.
I will say most definitely check out Batman Eternal, at least the first four issues. If past the first four you don't care for it, then you don't have to continue it. But so far, the first four issues have really been solid. If you're not that into just Bruce Wayne as Batman, definitely check out the 2012 to now Batman Beyond stuff. That is awesome. Other than that, you either got Batgirl or Nick Fury. I'm sorry, Dick Grayson as Nick Fury. That's something for another time.
I would like to pick up, though, or at least if Harley Quinn has no longer become like, the Harley Quinn from DCAU from the 90s, and when I'm reading what she's doing now, I would like to pick up Harley Quinn comics if she's joined the Suicide Squad.
I don't know what's going on, but she does have her own ongoing right now. But I've only read the issue 0, and I couldn't read past that. It was an homage to all it. They had what was it, Steve? 20-something artists on there.
Something like that.
They had 20 to 50 different artists on the issue 0 for Harley Quinn's new series, and it was all different art styles, homaging how she's looked over the last however many years she's been around. 20, 21, 22 years, because technically Dini created her. But past that, I don't know if you'd like it or not. I'm not sure because I haven't even read it. I will say that even though we're not doing single issue coverage anymore, I am still reading Zero Year since it's in its final phases, and issue 30 was better than some of the other ones. I'm just waiting to see what the next storyline and the main line is going to be, because honestly, anything except Court of Owls, it had, like I said at the beginning of this show, the beginning of Death of the Family grabbed me. It grabbed me and it was like, you better hold on to the edge of your seat or else. But as it went along, I honestly think The Killing Joke is much better. I really the ending to The Killing Joke was more emotional, more visceral, and this, as I said before, and as Joker said in Batman Beyond, it's sadly anticlimactic.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take a quick ad break, come back after this, and close out the show.
Ah, brave new world that has such putzes in it. Kids, a lot has changed while your old Uncle Joker's been away. New Gotham, new rules, even a new Batman.
It isn't 65 years in the future, but Legends of the Dark Knight has gone beyond. Batman Beyond, that is.
The new boy. Ears are too long and I miss the cape, but not too shabby. Not too shabby at all.
Join Steve and Mike as they delve into the remaining episodes of the podcast, where they'll cover Batman Beyond, products, games, and more. Check it out only on GeekCastRadio.com.
All right, we are back here in the final episode of the Batman 75th Anniversary Spotlight Special here in the Pull Bag, and I know this is kind of a short show, but I've read the Death of the Family storyline twice now, and I've read it in single issues and in the hardcover trade, and I thought reading it in trade it would affect me more, it would change my mind, and honestly, it doesn't. Based on the GCRN Universal Rating System, I am going to give this a 3 stars out of 5, which equals barely passing. Now let me read what this means. Barely passing. While the overall takeaway was positive, you do not necessarily walk away happy. It does not extraordinarily succeed in any specific areas, or if it does, it gets weighed down by something as equally as unsuccessful. Though overall enjoyable, it is usually disposable. I wanted more. I really did. Like Steve said earlier, I wanted something different to happen. Whether that was going to be him, Joker killing Damian, or, I mean, kill somebody for Christ's sake. I mean, come on. Even if you just kill off Bullock, for crap's sake, just kill somebody. Steve, what are you going to rate this one?
I'm going to rate it at a 3.5.
Okay.
Just because it's, like I said, the issues with what happened. And I overall liked it, but there were other underlying issues.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jeremy?
I'm actually giving this one a 4.5. And I was on the fence, but the reason why I'll give it credit where credit is due is after reading the epilogue, I thought this was just them having nightmares, but it happened, and Joker came very close. As for him killing somebody, I mean, I could have. I've heard rumors that Alfred was going to be killed, but it didn't happen. I do appreciate what Joker's trying to do to step up the ante. The only thing is, as for anticlimactic, I think the biggest, once again, 2 kicks in the teeth also is when the gas goes off and the Bat family starts going after each other in the cave. And I was like, okay, we're back to basics. But you know what? As I said before, it's my number 3 for, interesting Bat literature.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. All right, folks. I know it's been a hellacious month here in May. 13 podcasts in 1 month. I will not be doing that again, I promise. But it was Batman's 75th after all, and had to celebrate it somehow. We've seen coverage from Batman Eternal, from Batman 66, the ongoing comic by Jeff Parker, Beware the Batman, Court of Owls, City of Owls, Death of the Family, The Killing Joke, Dark Knight Returns. We've seen a Batman Year One. I will tell you right now, coming up in the first week of June, we will kind of be continuing the Bat coverage, but not really. We are going to be doing a back issue classics for Batgirl Volume 1 from the New 52, and I believe it's still on track to have the incredible Dr. Andrea Letamendi join me. I'm not sure if Brian Ward is going to join me or not, but Dr. Letamendi, she got turned into Batgirl's psychologist in the New 52, which is really cool, so I thought it was only fitting to have her review those stories with me. Steve, where can the people find you online?
On Twitter at SCP21.
Jeremy, what about you?
Twitter at Hunnick Outskirt.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of The Pull Bag. Join us next time and make your great escape into comics.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, the GCRN's comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you are leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. Send us an email feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at GeekCastRadio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.